test friends, today we are going to do a science experiment. Now I asked you guys to get some things ready before we started, and one of the things is a container of water. Now my container is clear so you guys can see what I'm putting in it, but yours doesn't have to be clear because just you will be seeing it, okay? Now I also asked you guys to bring a pipe cleaner. Now mine is black. It's kind of hard to see. I should have picked a different color, huh? Well, I picked black because I thought it would show up better in our tub. So we have pipe cleaners. I asked you guys to get a pom-pom. Now you guys have different sizes and colors. I chose the little pom-pom that's orange, but you guys can pick whatever color pom-pom out of your box that you want. And I asked you to bring a Unifix cube. I'm using the blue one, but you know what? In school, we have big Unifix cubes. Look at the size difference. Do you see that? That's a big difference, isn't it? So I brought this one. So you guys will have this one, and I'll use it too, but I thought it would be fun to see the big one. And then I asked you guys to bring 2 popsicle sticks, one little and one big. And the last thing I asked for you guys to bring is a penny. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna see which ones sink and which ones float. So when something sinks, that means it goes all the way to the bottom and sits on the bottom. It touches there. If it's floating, if it floats, that means it stays on top, near the top of the water, and that is called the surface. Can you guys say surface? Surface, that's like the top. That's another word for the top of something. So we want to see if which ones are going to sink and which ones are going to float. Now I wrote on my board sink on this side and float on that side. And I'm going to write down which ones sink and which ones float, and we're going to see which one has more and which one has less, or are they going to be equal, which means they are the same. I don't know. Okay, now before we get started, I'm going to teach you another big word. We already talked about surface, but now the next word is hypothesis. Hypothesis. Can you guys say that? It's kind of hard. Hypothesis. Yeah. And a hypothesis is a guess on what you think is going to happen in our experiment. So you're going to take a guess using your brain, and you're going to say, my hypothesis is that it is going to sink. Or my hypothesis is that it's going to float. And you can say why you think that too. But it is up to you on that part. Okay? So I'm going to start with I'll start with our Unifix cubes. So go ahead and get your Unifix cubes. Yours doesn't have to be blue like mine. It can be any color of your cubes. And I'm also going to use my big yellow one. Now, I think my hypothesis is that the blue one, the tiny one, is going to float. And I think the big one is going to sink because it's bigger. That's what I think. That's my hypothesis. What do you think? What's your hypothesis? Do you think they're going to sink or float? And what about yours? Do you think yours is going to sink or float? Okay, are you ready? Now be careful when you put it in. You don't want it to splash, okay? So I'm going to put it in there very nicely and gently. I'm going to move it. It's moving. Oh, my water is very cold. All right. Are you ready? Did yours sink or did yours float? Mine floated. Look it. Do you see that? It's on the surface of the top of the water. It's not touching the bottom. See that gap? The big one looks like it's very close to sinking, but it's because it's so big. So those floated. They stayed at the top of our surface. So I'm going to write it on the board. Now cube, Unifix cube starts with the letter C. C, cube. So I'm going to write cubes over here on the float side, because the float side shows an arrow pointing up, which means it stayed up. The sink side shows an arrow down, which means it sunk to the bottom. But this one stayed floating, so I'm going to write cubes, because we had more than one. So a C, cubes, and they are floating. Okay, let's do our next one. Our next one, how about the pom-pom? Now like I said, I'm using a small orange one, but you guys can pick whatever pom-pom out of your kit that you would like. Just one though, okay? And we're gonna put it in there. What is your hypothesis? My hypothesis is very light, so I think it's gonna float. It's not heavy, so I don't think it's gonna sink. But what about you? What do you think? Do you think it's gonna sink, or do you think it's going to float? Are you ready to find out? Okay, let's put it in there. Oh my goodness, did you see that? Mine sunk. It went to the bottom. It is touching the bottom of my container. I thought for sure it was going to float because it's so light, but it didn't. It went to the bottom. Yes, it began to sink. So I'm gonna write pom-pom on my sink side. Did your pom-pom sink or did it float? What did yours do? And pom-pom starts with the letter P. P for pom-pom. So I'm gonna write it over here on the sink side. And pom-pom starts with the letter P. And you know what? It says the same word twice, but it's two words. Pom-pom. Pom-pom. I can't believe that sunk. Oh my goodness. Were you guys right? Was your hypothesis right? Because mine was wrong. But was yours right? It's okay to be wrong and right. That's how we learn. That's why it's part of our experiment. Okay, our next one is going to be a penny. It's very hard to see that penny so far away from you guys, but I am using a penny. Now you guys can use a nickel, a dime, a quarter, whatever kind of coin you want, but I'm using a penny because that's all I had in my purse. I didn't have any other change, so I'm going to use a penny, okay? And my hypothesis is that it's going to sink because it feels kind of heavy, so I think it's going to sink. But what do you think? What is your hypothesis? Do you think it's going to sink or do you think it's going to float? Are you ready to find out? Okay, let's put it in there. Did you hear that noise? It was very light, but mine went to the bottom. Do you see it down there? Kind of hard to see. I'll have to show you guys. I'll bring it close up. But my penny, here, you know what? I'm going to scoot it to the back. Oh, my water's so cold. Okay. Now do you see it a little bit? Maybe in the back there? I don't know. But mine sunk. It went to the bottom. Did yours sink or did yours float? Why do you think that it sunk? It's a little heavier, isn't it? And it's made of metal. So that one went to the bottom. Now a penny starts with the letter P. P. So I'm going to write it on the sink side because it went down like our arrow showing. Penny. Penny. P, penny. And P, pom-poms. All right, we only have two things left. We only have our popsicle sticks and our pipe cleaner. So our popsicle sticks, you have one little one and one big one. I think my hypothesis is we're going to do them both. I think both of them are going to float. Now what do you think? What is your hypothesis? Do you think they're going to sink or do you think they're going to float? Okay, let's check it out. Mine are floating. Are yours floating? It's kind of hard to see because they're so flat on our surface. But they are up there, they're floating. They are not sinking. So that means, do I write it on this side or this side? This side, because they're floating, so they're staying on top of the surface. Now, popsicle stick starts with what letter? P, yeah, P for popsicle. But stick starts with what letter? S, stick. So that one is two words. So I'm going to write it over here. floated, so it stayed at the top. All right, we have one more, and that is our pipe cleaner. Now you can pick any color pipe cleaner you want. I chose black because I thought it might show better in the water, but I didn't think about me wearing a black shirt, so it might blend in. What color did you guys choose? Yeah, you guys have lots of different colors to choose from. So I'm gonna put it in, but before I do that, we gotta do what? Our hypothesis. Now what is yours? My hypothesis is it's very light, so I think it's gonna float. What do you think? What's your hypothesis? All right, ready? Here we go. I'm gonna put it in there. Oh, it's stuck on my popsicle stick. It sunk to the bottom. Do you see that? It's hard to see because of my shirt. I'm so sorry. It sunk to the bottom. It did not float. It went down. So that means I put it on this side, and pipe cleaner starts with a P, and cleaner starts with a C. We have all C and P words today. I didn't even realize that I did that. So I'm gonna put it on this side. It's gonna be pipe cleaner, and just like our popsicle sticks, it is 2 words. All right, pipe cleaner. P, pipe, C for cleaner. Now, look at our list. Let's count how many we have on each side. And is yours the same or is yours different? Did your pom-pom, your penny, and your pipe cleaner all sink to the bottom? Or were they different? And your cubes, your Unifix cube, and your popsicle sticks, did those sink to the bottom or did they float? Mine floated, but did yours change? All right, now let's count how many we have on each side. Ready? Let's count. 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 things on my sink side. And how many do I have on my float side? Let's count. 1, 2. So I have 2 over here. Now, which one has more? 3 or 2? Which one is more? 3. We have more things sink. So that means the float is less. So this one has more, and this one has less. It does not have as many. How about yours? What were your numbers? Did you write them down? Write them down and let me know which one is more and which one is less. Now I'm gonna bring mine over to the camera a little closer because I know it was hard to see with my background. But if you look, here, you know what, I'm gonna flip it this way. Here we go. Okay. So if you look, you can see my penny is at the bottom with the pipe cleaner and the pom-pom. And then up on the top surface is my Unifix cubes and my popsicle sticks. All right, that was pretty cool. You know what? I think you guys should do another experiment of sink or float, and maybe you can do it in your bathtub with your bathtub toys. You should never bring in toys unless mom and dad says it's okay. But I know some friends have certain toys they get to bring in their bathtub, and you should see, do they sink or do they float? You'll have to find out and let me know. But like I said, ask your grown-ups first, okay? Just make sure it's all right. All right, friends, good work today. Excellent job on our sink and float experiment, and you guys made hypothesis. I'm so proud of you guys. You are so smart and you're learning so well. All right, I will see you guys soon. Bye.